All right. Ken has a webinar that he has been running. I think we've done a review for Ken on the past 3 calls. So if you have access to the December calls and you want to see what we've been talking about with Ken, you may want to go back and watch the past 2 or 3 calls because we've been talking to Ken about how to get more people on his webinar, how to increase his registration rate on his landing page. I think that was on December 20th. And now he wants help with how to get more conversions on his webinar. Basically, he said, here's my webinar data over a 3-week period. I've had 31 people watch the webinar. 3 people selected the call to action and 1 person actually bought. And he says, poor results. Okay. So I'll come back to that here in a minute. Basically, Ken says that the area where he wants help is, he says, my concern is how do I increase my webinar closing rate? The webinar data after 3 weeks is that I had 31 people watch, 3 people selected the call to action, and 1 person bought. I've shortened my enrollment form, so hopefully the 3 who selected the call to action next time will fill it out. But I'm still not happy with the call to action number overall at being less than 10%. So I'd like your thoughts on how to improve it, because all my ads lead to the webinar, which must be effective. Otherwise, the money spent on ads is a waste. Okay. So guys, get ready for an in-depth look into my business. Everybody here, not just Ken. I'm going to be giving you a very in-depth look at my real world numbers in my business. And I'm going to drive home a point that I've been trying to drive home over and over and over on the past several calls. Okay. Point number 1 that I want you to take away from what I'm about to show you with my numbers here in a bit is that this idea that in order for my ads to be effective, I have to make a huge profit right on the front end. Okay. You're going to see I don't make a huge profit right on the front end. When everything is said and done, I think I might end up with maybe 7 to 10% profit. That means if I spend $100, I might make 10. Is that right? Actual profit. So if I spend $100, I might make $110 in profit back after all of my expenses. And you'll understand those numbers and why that is. So you might be thinking, well, why? Isn't the whole goal of advertising to make money? Not if you listen to what I said on the December 20th call when I was talking to, I think it was Mark Bentham. Everybody should go listen to what I told Mark. The goal of advertising is to get a customer. A customer is at least 100 times more valuable, in my opinion, than a sale. And everybody is worried about how many sales I'm getting versus what is the value of having a customer, okay? Because, Ken, I don't know enough about how long these people are staying with your business. Is it a reoccurring thing where they're paying you month after month? Are you saying that I have to make money on the very first, I have to make a profit on my very first sale, otherwise the money spent on the ad is a waste? I'm going to show you why I think that is faulty thinking. So that's the first thing I want everybody to get out of this. The importance of utilizing your thinking about your advertising for the purpose of getting a customer, not for making a profit. Okay? I'll show you where the profit's made, but it's not on front-end advertising. Did you know that most businesses go in debt to acquire customers because they know the value of having a customer that loves their brand for the long term? Okay? We'll get to that in more detail in a little bit. The second thing, in fact, I'm going to dive into this right now. The second thing that I really want everybody to walk away from is, do you have the right expectations about what your conversion numbers should be? Okay. When it comes to running Facebook ads, just in terms of how many people click on my ad, how many people become a lead. This is one of the reasons why, if you haven't watched this video in your members website, inside, if you go to the Facebook group and you click over here on files and you go to the one that says, my ad isn't converting, what should I do? Okay. A large part of this is a 50-minute video. A large part of the goal of this video is to get your expectations right. I have people that they ran an ad for 10 minutes and, 5 people saw it and they said, oh, I didn't get any leads. It didn't work. And it's like, okay, you do not have enough data to make that determination yet. And you have completely unrealistic expectations about what you think. If you think 5 people saw my ad, I should have leads, then I need to set your expectations about what real world numbers look like in online marketing so that you can, number one, tweak your expectations, and number two, tweak either your sales process or your back end process to make your business more efficient and more profitable. And I'm going to give you a behind the scenes glimpse at my business in just a minute with my real world webinar numbers in just a moment. But to me, Ken says I had 31 people watch the webinar. Okay. And 3 of them selected the call to action. Only 1 person bought. So there's 2 problems with your conclusion here. And then you went on to say, you think these are poor results. 2 problems with your conclusion. Number 1, you've only had 31 people watch the webinar. So you are making assumptions off of data that is simply too small of a sampling size for you to make any conclusions this early that are going to be truly worthwhile yet. Okay? For me personally, in my business, I do not make any assumptions about any conversion rate, whether it's a sales conversion or a lead conversion, until I've had at least 100 to 200 people minimum exposed to that offer, given the chance to convert. And honestly, I don't even like to do it off of 100 to 200 people exposed. I like 300 to 500, but at minimum, 100 to 200 people should have at least not just seen my ad, but if I want to know, is my offer converting into leads, I should have gotten at least 100 to 200 clicks to know, is my lead magnet converting at a number that I'm happy with? In order for me to have enough data, I want at least 100 clicks on my ad to say yes or no. I can make a solid determination about whether I have a good conversion rate or not. If I want to make a determination or an assumption about, is my webinar conversion rate good or bad, I want at least 100 people to attend the webinar. At least 100. I would prefer more than 200. I like 300 to 500 to really get a good sampling of data. I want at least 300 to 500 people for me to attend the webinar and then analyze how many people purchased. And do you have a good follow-up process in place, Ken? Are you basing this only off of the people who purchased right on the webinar? Because a lot of people don't buy right on the webinar. They wait for a follow-up email, right? What are you saying in your follow-up? Do you have a follow-up? I don't know. That's one of the things you can do to improve your conversions. But I digress. We'll get to those tips for you here in a little bit. But I want to make sure that I am making my assumptions off of plenty of data, right? Lots of data, so I'm getting the law of averages. This one sale out of 31 people, that it could be a fluke one way or another. You could have, let's just do this. You had 31 people attend the webinar and you had 1 person purchase. That's 1 person divided by 31 people. That's about a 3% conversion rate, okay? 3% of the people attending your webinar have purchased. So now maybe your webinar conversion rate is 3%. Maybe it's not. The truth is, I don't safely say I know what my webinar conversion rate is, and I'm going to show you those exact numbers. And I can say with with a lot of certainty, with pretty accurate, within 0.5%, I can know next month what my revenue is going to be and what my conversions are going to be. Why? Because I had 16,000 people attend my webinar in November. I have enough data to say over this many people, the law of averages tells me what my real conversion rates are. This could be one person, it could have been a fluke. It could have been one person who's like, I really like that Ken guy. He's a good looking dude. I'm going to buy from him because I like the way he looks, and nobody else would ever buy for that reason. So you might have a way worse conversion rate than 3%. Then again, maybe you've got more people that would have purchased out of these 31, but You didn't follow up with them right. The timing wasn't right. You just didn't have enough people to find those other, maybe your real conversion rate is 6%, and you just didn't find the second person yet who was going to buy to let you know that you've got a 6% because you haven't shown your webinar to enough people. So this number could be a total fluke in a good way or in a bad way, or it could be maybe your closing rate is 3%, but we don't know yet until you've had enough people. Finally, I don't think these are poor results at all. You've made a sale. That's great. You've got something to work with. Now, how can you improve it? I will give you a lot of ideas here in a minute, but I want to set your expectations for putting you in the ballpark of what you maybe should consider your conversion rates will be based on looking at some other people's businesses. Now, if you didn't hear me say this at the beginning of the call, I'm going to say it again because I want to make sure, Ken, especially you hear me when I say this. I'm about to show you real world numbers from my business in the month of November of 2018. Why not December? I'll explain why in December. I'll explain why in a moment. You'll understand why I'm going to show you November instead of December. It all comes back to this idea of why do I not get bent out of shape that I'm not making a huge profit right off of my ads? That's why I'm going to show you my November numbers, because then I'm going to show you how I made a profit in December from my leads that I generated in November. That's why I'm going to show you my November numbers, okay? But the real thing I want you to take away, Ken and everybody else here, the numbers I'm going to show you for my business are just that. They are for my business. I have a different market. I've been doing this longer than you have probably. I maybe sell a product at a different price point than you. I have been, writing copy longer than you. I mean, lots of different factors that could determine my conversion rate over your conversion rate. So I don't want you to look at mine and say, well, these are Tyson's numbers. These should definitely be mine. Yours, maybe your conversion rate should be higher. If you're selling a lower priced product than me, then maybe you should have a higher conversion rate. If you're using a different closing process, like you said you had people who filled out the enrollment form. So I don't know if that means, are they filling out an enrollment form and putting in their credit card information and buying right away? Or is this like an enrollment form where it's like an application where they become a lead, and then after they've become a lead, somebody from your team calls them and sells them one-on-one? Also, do you have any kind of follow-up process to get your team to call the people who started the enrollment process but never finished it? That's another way. Just came to me off the top of my head for you to increase your conversions. But my point here was with all of that rambling was this. The numbers I'm about to show you should not be I need to strive for those exact numbers, okay? Depending on a variety of factors, including everything I just told you and more, you may or may not have higher conversions, lower conversions, higher attendance rates, lower attendance rates, higher number of people that buy on the webinar versus that don't buy on the webinar. And maybe we'll expand on that a bit more. So now let's do this. I'm going to show you my real world numbers for my business. Give me a minute to pull these up. Everybody can see my screen, because here it is going to be important that you see my screen. And when I'm done with this, you're probably going to want to take a screenshot. I mean, you don't have to, because you'll have the recording of this. But what I'm about to show you are my real world numbers. And this is going to be something you will probably want to have a screenshot of at some point. So you may just want to take it now while it's on the screen, so you don't have to search the recording, but you will have it in the recording as well when I put that up here in the next day or two. Okay. So in the month of November, these are my real world numbers right down to the penny. I spent $170,224.51 on ads between Facebook and YouTube. Okay. And you can see, here's my breakdown. I spent 68,000 something on Facebook and 101,000 something on YouTube. Now, let me just say this. The minute I show that number, there's always going to be some newbie here who freaks out and goes, oh my God, you have to spend $100,000 on ads? No, you don't. Okay. I have built up to this level of spending because my business has grown to a place where it supports it. I do not recommend anyone starts at this level, nor would it be wise to start at this level. You start small. You start at $10 a day over a 3 or 4 day period to test out your ad and see if it's performing over 3 to 5 days. Okay. So that way, the least amount you're going to be risking is maybe $30 to $50, not $100,000, right? So what I did, just to make sure everybody understands this, last year, I started with a new ad campaign for this webinar. Actually, it was, last year, 2018, with, $10, $20 a day. I tweaked my ads to get it working, and I started scaling up. Once I knew I was getting leads, that I was spending 20 and I was making 20, $25 back or something along those lines. Once I started doing that, then I went ahead and I started spending maybe $50 a day. And I started making, so if I spent $50 today, and let's say that $55 landed back in my bank account, right? Well, now I can reinvest that $55, right? I'm not spending, because here's the big misconception. Everybody thinks, oh, Tyson, you spent $170,000 out of your own pocket. No, I didn't. I spent my customers' money. Do you understand how that works? If I spend $50 on an ad today and $55 hits my bank account tomorrow, I now have $55 that I can spend on ads to reinvest. I don't go spend it on a date with my wife. I'm building a business here. So I reinvest that $55 back. And now that $55 might turn the next day, might turn into $62 back in my bank account. And then I reinvest that $62, and that $62 comes back as $70. You guys getting where I'm going here? Every time I reinvest, and I have just built this number up to where I spend today on ads. In fact, let's just do this so that you guys truly understand this. Today alone, let's say yesterday alone. Hold on. Let me pull up. I got to log into some screens that you guys, I don't want to show you the login screens, obviously. Okay. Let's look inside of Google AdWords, all of my campaigns for yesterday. Here's the date. Today is January the 3rd. So if we just look at what I spent yesterday, my total cost yesterday just in Google AdWords was $6,741.35. Okay, so let's do that. 6,741.35. Plus, I also spent money on Facebook ads yesterday. So let's just look at Facebook, just yesterday, just to make it simple. If we just say yesterday, I have 2 accounts running. One of them spent $289, one spent $24.75. So if we add up $289.44 plus $24.75, oh crap, hold on. Clear. Plus $24.75.15. That means yesterday alone, I spent $9,500 on ads. Okay. $9,500 came out of my account, but how much landed in my account? Today is January the 3rd. So if I spent $9,500 yesterday, and let's just look at the whole month so far. So far in the month of January, from January 1st to January the 4th. Here we are. Today is January the 3rd. My total, let me zoom in here, see if you guys can see this. Right there. That's today's number. That's January 3rd. That's January 2nd. That's January 1st. So am I willing to spend $9,500 today to get $13,000 in my bank account tomorrow? If everybody would agree that that is a smart business decision, say yes. 13,536 minus 9,505, that's a $4,000 profit today. Would we all agree that is a smart business decision? Do we all understand now that I don't look at advertising as how can I spend less? I look at advertising as how can I spend more? Do you guys understand that? So many people think I need to figure out how I can spend less, how I can save money on advertising. No, you need to look at how can I optimize my lead costs? How can I spend less to acquire a lead? But once I know that I can get a lead for $10 and that lead is worth 15 or 14 or whatever the number is for me, I don't want to spend $100 to make 140. I don't want to spend $1,000 to make 1,400. I want to spend 10,000 a day to make 14,000 a day. And then I want to scale up more to spend, if it were possible, I would spend $100,000 a day to make $140,000 back the next day. That's what investing means. That's why I look at my business as an investment. Okay. How can I put money towards advertising that brings me a return on my advertising back? Okay. Do you need to start at $170,000? No, nowhere close to it. I would recommend $10 to $20 a day for about 3 to 5 days to test out your ad. And once you know things are working and you've tested with very little risk, then you start scaling up along the way. Are we there? Okay. Now that I've gone on all of that, let's look at the rest of the stats. Out of $170,224.51 spent in November, I got 16,291 people to register for my webinar. So how much did I spend per registrant? I spent $10.45. For those of you that don't know how I got that, I said I spent $170, $224.51. That's how much I spent. And what did I get for it? I got 16,291 leads. You divide that and you get $10.45 is what I spent to get someone to attend my webinar. How many of those 16,000 people actually attended the webinar? My real world numbers were 46.7% attendance. I had 7,600 people actually attend the webinar. The remaining 9,000 people or whatever's left, either they changed their mind, they weren't interested, they were just checking out my funnel. Maybe they just weren't ready right now. Life got in the way. Kids were screaming. They forgot about it. But you know what? I don't look at those 9,000 people as being lost or money ill spent. I look at those people as I just got paid $4,000 today to get a bunch of new people on my list that I can advertise to next month, and maybe they'll be ready to attend my webinar or buy my product then. That's the value of building a list of people, and I'm getting paid to do it. Okay. So, but in the month of November, just November, I had 7,600 people attend my webinar. And out of those 7,607 people, I got 429 new customers. That means I had 429 new people buy something from me as a result of that webinar. That means, and I told you I was selling a $500 product. Most of you are here because you bought that product either in November or December, or maybe prior to that. That product was attract 100 leads in 30 days. I'm selling that product for $497. So $497 times 429 people that bought it, that's $213,000. $213,213. $213,213. Okay. So what does that relate to in terms of percentages? Ken, this is something I want you to pay close attention to. I've been doing this a long time, and I only have a 2.6 conversion rate from lead to close. That means out of everybody that registers for my webinar, I get 2.6% of them to actually become customers. So 429 people divided by 16,291 people that actually registered. That means 2.6% of my leads became a customer. So how am I doing in terms of closing? Well, 7,600 people actually attended the webinar. They're the ones who saw the pitch. So how many of them did I close? Well, 429 people divided by 7,607 people that actually attended the webinar. That means my webinar has a 5.6% closing rate. You're telling me that you're upset that you don't have a 10% closing rate. Now, maybe in your market, you should. Maybe at your price point, you should have a 10%. I don't know, Ken, But I'm telling you, I've been doing this a long time, and I've optimized this funnel. I've been working on it a while, and I have a 5.6% closing rate on my webinar. So I hope that that at least puts it into perspective. Again, not that I'm saying your closing rate should be 5.6%. If you're selling a cheaper product, if you're sending them to an application instead of an order form, then yeah, definitely you may see and probably should see higher conversion rates than 5.6. And maybe based on your market and a ton of other things, you should see higher than 5.6. I don't know, but I hope that that at least gives you a starting point to give you some clarity on what maybe you should expect. Now, here's some other numbers that I hope you guys start to get real interested in. If I had 429 people buy a $497 product, that means I had $213,000 basically generated from the sale of that first product on the webinar. But that ain't all profit, okay? 3% of that has to go to my credit card company for credit card fees. So if we take $213,000 minus the $6,300 that I'm going to pay in credit card fees, because I got to pay 3% to process those transactions. Well, now I'm down to $206,000. Then, honestly, the cost of, some of those people took a payment plan. They paid 3 payments instead of 1 lump sum. And not all of those people are going to end up paying off their 3 installments. Some people are going to end up asking for a refund. By the time we take in about 7% of this total that I'm not ever going to see because of refunds and people who don't pay their payment plans, we need to now subtract another $14,924.91. That means that really my total amount that I collected from first-time sales was $191,891. I spent $170,000, made $191,000, but even that ain't all profit, because then I've got to pay employees, I've got operating costs of my business. By the time it's all said and done, just from the sale of that $497 product, I might be left with a little less than $10,000 after spending $170,000 on ads. That's less than a 6% profit margin if I'm trying to just make money from my ads. Do you guys understand how hard it is if you're trying to say, I want my business to only be profitable right off of the bat from front-end advertising? I want to spend $100 and I want to make $200 back in profit, right? That is hard to do. So you might be saying, well, gosh, why do you accept 6%? Why are you okay with just a 6% profit margin from your actual webinar? And here's why. It's because my money is made on the back end. Guys, listen to what I'm about to tell you. If you have not thought about how can I increase the amount of money that I make from my existing leads and customers, you are really putting your business in a very difficult position. And it is going to get harder and harder and harder to market your business on the internet, right? If all you're thinking about is one and done, let me make a sale today, pocket the money, and move on to the next sale. I don't care anything about the customers. I don't care anything about my leads. Guys, I'm telling you, that is a scorched earth mentality. You're starting over at 0 every single new month. Who wants to do that? Why? If all I'm doing is saying, okay, well, I got 429 new customers this month, but I don't have anything else to sell them. I don't have a back end. I don't have any follow-up process next month to talk to the people who are already on my list. Basically, if all I'm doing is saying, well, what kind of sales did I make from the very first interaction with someone? I'm starting over at 0 every single new month in my business. The minute I implemented a back end into my business, what's a back end? A back end is nothing more than, what else might these people be interested in buying from me? In my photography business, it was, you know what? I'm selling them prints. Why don't I also start selling them some frames to go with those prints, right? It was, in my shaved ice business when I had it, It was, okay, we're selling shaved ice. Not everybody likes snow cones and shaved ice. What if we also offered ice cream? Because some of the parents might want ice cream instead of shaved ice. What else would go with this that my customers might also like to buy, right? It's no different than when McDonald's says, would you like fries with that? Do you think McDonald's really makes money on their 99-cent menu? No. That menu is designed to get you in the drive-thru to become a customer. The real money, McDonald's is really in the, do you want fries and a Coke with that business? They are in the upsell business, not the burger business, right? It is, would you like this with that? It's how Amazon makes all their money when you buy a book on Amazon and they say, hey, by the way, people who bought this book also liked that book. So what else can I sell people? What other programs can I offer? What other services could I provide to people that would help them to go to the next level? Also, a back end is, what am I doing with my leads that didn't buy from me immediately? Not everybody's going to buy from you right away. That's normal. Look at this, guys. I get 6% of the people who actually attend I only get less than 3% of my registrants, the people who get on my list. That means if I get 100,000 people on my list, well, let's not say that number. If I get 10,000 people, just to make the number easy, 10,000 people on my list this month, only 300 of them are actually going to be customers. What am I doing with the other 9,700 people? Am I just like, well, I guess they're never going to buy from me? No, that's so stupid. You're leaving so much money on the table. How could you maybe offer another webinar, solve a different problem for them, invite them to a Facebook Live, invite them to a YouTube Hangout, invite them to another free webinar, send them email content? How can I keep building that relationship to where on the back end, those 9,700 people who weren't quite ready yet, they might be ready tomorrow or next month? Guys, I've had people on my list for years who didn't buy right away. And for whatever reason, 2 years after they've been on my list, they decided today's the day I'm buying. Why? Because I have a back end where I monetize my existing leads and I give my existing customers an opportunity to buy more from me. So here's an example of how I've done that. And here's why I'm not worried about the 6% profit margin from my existing webinar. 22 of the people who purchased this $497 product decided to buy my upsell for $1,000. It was what I call the Legacy Collection, where they get a full year of free membership in the Inner Circle, and they get every product I've offered, my Legacy Collection. It's an incredible value. They got it for $1,000, a huge discount. So they paid an extra $1,000. 22 people took me up on that offer out of these 429. So immediately on day one, I just put an extra almost $22,000, $21,934 into my bank account, all because I made them an upsell offer. I gave, hey, if you like this, you might also be interested in my Legacy Collection. 22 people said yes. Now, are those astronomically high numbers? No. 22 people out of 429, that's only 5% of the people, 5% of my buyers that took my upsell. But I'm looking more at what does it do for the overall value on day one. Here's another thing I look at. Before I had this upsell, I had, let's look at the actual math here, $191,891.70 divided by 16,291 leads. Before I had that upsell, I could spend up to $11.77 per registrant for my webinar and still break even or better. And I'm okay with breaking even because of this back end stuff I'm showing you right now, right? So, but the minute I added that upsell, my value, what is a lead worth to me? Without the upsell, my leads are worth $11.78 to me, okay? Now that I've added this upsell, $191,891.70 plus the extra $21,934 approximately, that puts me at $213,825 divided by 16,000 leads, 16,291. Well, now I can spend at least $1 more per lead, a little bit more than $1 more per lead. So I can spend a little bit more than my competitors to acquire a lead. If Facebook and YouTube work off of the idea of auctions, right? Hey, I am willing to spend this much for a customer, and then my competitor says I'm willing to spend this much. Who do you think Facebook is going to show the ads from? The person who says I'm willing to spend $10 or I'm willing to spend $13. Easy math, right? Facebook is going to say, well, listen, if this guy can spend $13 for a lead, that doesn't mean Facebook is always going to charge me $13. But if Facebook knows that I have I'm willing to spend $13 per lead, and my competitor is only willing to spend $11, I'm going to win the auction, and my ad's going to get shown more than my competitor. So now, just that upsell alone has put more money in my pocket and given me more bidding power with my ads. Let's move on to the next stat. 287 of these 429 people joined. Now, this is the real back end, okay? I asked myself, out of every person who bought my product, what is the biggest problem that they face that they would like, that would be the most logical thing where they could buy more and get more value? It's not about what can I sell them, okay? So I don't want you to think from an idea or a standpoint of how can I get more money from these people, right? Think instead from a standpoint of what extra value could I provide on top of the value I'm already giving them. In my photography business, I said, I'm already giving them beautiful prints. What if I framed those prints for them? That is an additional service that provides even more value, but I'm going to get paid for that extra value. In my business, I said, okay, where else could I provide value? What are my existing customers of my home study product struggling with? Well, they get confused when they go through the product and they don't have personalized help along the way. So how could I fill that gap, provide additional value, which would grow my business on the back end and give them something else that I could sell them to provide more value? So every single person that purchases my product, you're probably here because you came in through a 30-day free trial. I said, hey, listen, one of the things that you're probably going to want is some personalized help. I'm happy to give you 30 days free trial into my inner circle. If you don't want to stay after your 30 days, that's totally fine. But I think you're going to find most people get so much value and they make their money back every month off of the very small fee that they're paying, that you may want to remain a member. We have 287 of these 429 people decided to take us up on a free trial. Okay. So what is that? That's 287 divided by 429. We're getting 67% of our buyers to take a free trial of our continuity program. This is where my stability in my business is. How can I make money every month, regardless of whether my ads run or don't run, whether they get shut down or don't get shut down? How can I create some sort of reoccurring program or some sort of rewards program for my existing customers to keep providing them more value or give them discounts? Like every month that you remain a member of this inner circle, you get a $500 program of mine, basically for just your $97, if you're, depending on what price you came in at, but for about $100 to $150 a month, you're getting a $500 extra product released to you every month. That's like a perk. It's like a rewards program that helps me. So what kinds of rewards programs could you give, for people who, like if I had a photography business, I'm sorry, I do have a photography business, but in my photography business, what if I had, if I photographed babies and children and I said, listen, I know we're doing your newborn session today, but, on this session, you could spend X number of dollars, but if you would like to come back every month for us to chronicle your baby's 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, all the way up through 12 months, we've got a membership program where you pay this amount per month. It's a huge discount off of what everybody else would pay for their sessions. That's how I could create a continuity program in that business if I were still shooting babies and children, which I'm not. But think about, where can I add extra value? Does my business have any option for continuity or for some sort of personalized help or coaching where I can help people one-on-one or in a group format like Tyson is doing? Because out of these 287 free trials, half of them decided to stay and become an actual paying member. So what is that? That's not total, new. Just from 1 month of advertising, 143 people said, you know what, Tyson? I like you. I like your training. I like your program. I'm getting a ton of value here. I can see I can see how this will benefit my business. I'm going to pay you $97 a month. 143 people said, yes, I want to pay you $97 a month. That's $13,871 of reoccurring revenue that I did not have to spend any extra money. And that's coming in every single month. And this month, I'll add another, probably 200 people. Actually, in the month of December, I added close to 200 people. We added 400 something free trials, and about 200 of them renewed. So that was about $20,000 we added in December, right? And then in January, I'm expecting it to be even more. So if you add all of that up, plus here's one other thing I did on the back end. In the month of December, sorry to spend so long on this, but I really want to paint a picture of how to create a profitable back end, because this is what will give you the power to go out and scale your business to the moon, guys. Once I really understood this, I was in a position to really make as much money as I would want to extract out of my business, okay? In the month of December, we decided to run a follow-up free webinar for that same $497 product, and we picked up an extra $25,844 in sales just from people who had registered previously. Maybe they had come to us in November, or maybe back in August, or maybe, who knows, maybe they got on our list 2 years ago, and I sent an email that just spoke to them. They attended the webinar for whatever reason. Now they were ready to buy. It cost me nothing more than the cost of having an autoresponder. And I clicked a button to send an email out to my entire list and said, hey, I'm offering a free webinar. Come check it out. I'll teach you how to do X, Y, and Z. I taught them that. We made an extra $25,844 in sales that I had to spend no extra money on advertising to get. So when you add all of that up, the extra $13,871 in reoccurring revenue, the legacy upsell, and the $25,844 from the promotion that we did as a follow-up webinar, that was $61,649 of pure profit by the end of month number 2. And remember, I've got that reoccurring revenue that I'm adding on to every month, 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. So let me ask you a final simple question before we finish this slide. Am I willing to have low profit margins? Or would I even be willing to maybe lose a little bit of money on my front end advertising to acquire a list of people that I can market to over and over and over, and that I can have a customer base of people who will buy things from me over and over and over again? The answer, of course, is a big fat resounding yes, 1,000 times yes, okay? Does this make sense to everyone? Please give me a little bit of feedback here before I go back to Ken. And I talk, because I do want to give Ken some specific ideas for how to improve his conversions on his webinar, okay? And then we're going to be done, and then we're going to do some Q&A. But I just want to see if this makes any sense to you, to the people here. Was this slide valuable? By the way, this is the end of the slide, so if you want a picture of it, now's the time. Take the picture right now. Okay, and while you're taking this picture and while you're typing in your comments here, I will say one last thing about this. Don't be overwhelmed by the thought of everything that you might have to do to build a back end. I didn't have back end overnight. I built a back end over time. I didn't have an inner circle continuity program immediately. I built it. I added it on eventually, right? I built my business. It's called building a business for a reason. Think of it like building a building. You have one brick at a time, right? You put on a brick today and a few more bricks today, but it ain't done. You come back tomorrow and you put on a few more bricks, and then you paint, and it's kind of an ongoing thing. And then once your house is built, you're constantly changing. You might paint the walls, upgrade it, change it. Building a funnel is the exact same way, okay? Steve Davis said, yes, I like the importance of the back end. I've been doing this for 20 years. It works. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. that validation there. Okay, Joe says the screen is very blurry. It was clear at the start. So nobody else has said it's blurry. So I don't know if that's just you and your connection, Joe, or if it's everybody. But if for some reason it was too blurry to snap, what you may want to do is just take a snapshot of we're right around the 2-hour mark into this training. So fast forward the replay to the 2-hour mark, and you should see this somewhere around 2 hours in, and then you can take a screenshot of it in your members website once I get the recording up, okay? All right, so I wanted to show that to everybody here because it's important for everybody here to understand the importance of having a customer. To me, these 429 customers and what they are worth to my business in the future is way more important to me than the $10,000 in front end profit that I might have made from those sales. In other words, this is a real world example of how a customer is so much more valuable to me than just getting a sale on the front end. Okay. Okay. Tracy, before I go into Ken's thing here, I want to address something Tracy just said. Tracy said, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. Don't use that word. Okay. I know it is acknowledging how you feel, but it is a non-empowering word. It does nothing to help you get to where you want to go. All it does is hold you back, right? Sometimes we feel overwhelmed. I know there are times in my business that I have felt overwhelmed, but I don't say it out loud. I say, okay, what can I do first to start achieving what I want to achieve? I have an entire laundry list of things that I need to do in my business right now that it's the first of the year. I could say, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed, but I don't. I say, I have a task list of things that need to get done. What one thing am I going to make sure I get done tomorrow? That is an action-oriented mindset, and it will keep you moving forward in momentum in your business, as opposed to the debilitating, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. This seems like so much, which is what shuts most people down. Break it down and say, what is the one thing that I want to accomplish tomorrow? What is the one thing I can accomplish tomorrow? It might be as simple as tomorrow I will create my first piece of content, even if it sucks and nobody sees it. I will worry about how to get people to that piece of content next week or later after I've got it created. That is the mindset you have to take, okay? Really, really want everybody here to get that. Please do not, I don't want to say it's a big pet peeve of mine, but I don't like hearing the word overwhelmed because I know that it stops you. It stops you from taking action. It stops your momentum. And it's not about me being perturbed by the word. It's about me being frustrated that you're not getting into action because you're letting what's going on in your mind and all the head trash of here's everything I have to do overwhelm you and stop you, right? Don't do that. Okay. All right. So having said all of that, the final thing we need to do here is talk to Ken about a few tips, because Ken said he wants some tips on how to increase his webinar closing rate. Okay. So Ken, this is such a there are so many things you could potentially do. So here's what I've done for you, Ken, because in the interest of time, I want to, I don't want this call to go on forever, and I could talk about each one of these things for a long time. I don't want to have to do that here. And there are so many things you could do to improve your conversions. So I've made a big long laundry list of them here. Let's see if we can zoom in and kind of look at them. Okay. And I'll kind of scroll through them. Just some general tips about increasing conversions in general. And then there's a few things for you as well, Ken. So number one, I mentioned this earlier. Ken, I don't know what you're doing in terms of follow-up, but it's normal for people not to buy right away on the webinar. I have a very in-depth follow-up process for everybody that attends my webinar that after they've attended and I know they've seen the pitch, I'm sending them emails with the deadline, reminders of the deadline, reminders of why this is going to be valuable to them. And those numbers I gave you earlier, by the way, are not, when I said I get 5 point something, 5.8 or whatever my percentage of closing was on the webinar, that's not my actual close on the webinar. That's my close with my follow-ups after the webinar. So on the webinar, it might only be 4% that I'm getting on the webinar, and I might pick up an extra 1.5% to 2% from my follow-up after the webinar, okay? Now, when I say follow-up, it doesn't have to just be follow-up to people who attended the webinar. It can also be follow-up for people who forgot to show up. I have people who didn't attend my webinar and they get a message that says, hey, what happened? Where were you? Oh my God, you said you wanted to get leads for your business, but you didn't show up. It's okay. I know life gets busy. I've got an encore presentation coming up. You can register right here, but please don't miss this encore because you might not have a chance to attend again. Here's the link. So the people who didn't attend the first time, I send them a reminder with an encore. That's a different way of following up with a different group of people. You want to follow up with the people who attended to remind them when the deadline is to buy, but also the people who forgot to attend. I don't want to just leave them be. I want to remind them, hey, you missed this, and I'm being cool with you and giving you another opportunity to attend. All right. If you want to increase conversions, here's the formula: D plus B plus O, or maybe I should say DOB, DOB. Or BOD. Ooh, BOD. DOB, BOD, DOB. Okay, anyway. So the formula for you to increase conversions, I don't care if you're doing a webinar, if you are doing a Facebook ad where you want to get leads, if you're doing a sales video, if you're talking to people one-on-one. The three things that will make or break your sales conversions are desire. Do they want it? Belief. Do they believe it will work for them? Offer. Is it irresistible? So, Ken, you have to ask yourself, how could I improve my presentation in each one of these areas? And I have a few tips for you, but the truth is, if you do not build your prospect's desire, they don't go, God, I want that so badly, they're not going to buy. If they want it badly, but they go, this would never work for me, they're not going to buy. And if your offer is not compelling enough, if you don't give them a reason to buy right now, you're going to lose sales. If you don't give them a clear picture of what it is they're getting, how it relates to solving or helping them satiate this desire that you've created, you will not get a lot of sales, right? So you've got to craft a compelling offer. So how do you create desire? First of all, you have to hook them at the very beginning. I don't care what you're doing. If it's an ad, you got to hook them in the first line or the headline of the ad. I've talked about that over and over and over. I've even given you formulas for how to do that. Go back and watch some of the replays. Or if you don't, if you just joined new recently, go watch your Facebook ads masterclass or the 5-minute Facebook ad notes in the Facebook ads masterclass. Go watch that. And you'll see how to hook people. I give you 5 formulas for what type of language will hook people. Okay. So I noticed, Ken, when I watched your webinar, you started your webinar by talking more about you than you did about them. That will not hook them, okay? I mean, really, you just said, here's the title of the webinar, and I'm Ken Lee. Who am I? Let me tell you about me. And the truth is, nobody cares who you are or what your credentials are until they know what's in it for them and why they should listen. Right? Why should I listen to this? What am I going to gain by being here? And just because you told them in the ad what they would gain, you have to remind them again and rebuild their desire on the first 5 minutes of the webinar. Okay? So I'm not saying you can't talk about you. You can, but you need to wait until they're hooked and you've built up their desire. So one of my tips directly for you is change the name of your webinar to be more of a results-based webinar headline instead of a here's what you're going to be learning webinar. So your webinar title, let's see if I've got your slides here somewhere. Here they are. Your webinar title, again, it's still 5 Keys to Growing Any Healthcare Business. What I've learned, and this should be, I believe, proper language, this may turn people off, should be learned. What I've learned, I don't know what I have learned. What I learned growing a $100 million business. Again, I don't know if this part's necessary. People want to know, how is this webinar going to translate to the kind of results I'm going to achieve? Does this $100 million business thing give you some credibility? Yes. But here's a big tip that I actually give you a little bit later down here. This tip: everything you say and do in your webinar should lead towards building their belief and their desire that they can do it. It should lead towards the sale. So if it doesn't accomplish that goal, you should cut it from your webinar. So when you say, like one example I said was, when you tell your own story about who is Ken Lee, if the goal of the story is to talk about who you are without also relating it to how your results relate to what results they can get, or how, if your story relates, if you don't relate some part of your story to how their life will be different or better, then you should take it out of your story. Don't just include credentials about you for credentials' sake to add credibility. And in some cases, this like $100 million business thing, how many of these people are also wanting to build a $100 million business? Now, I'm not saying you can't mention it. Sure, if you want to mention it as part of your credibility in passing, but are the people who are on this webinar here because they also want to build a $100 million business? I'm guessing no. If not, I don't think the title slide of the webinar needs to include it. I think the title slide of the webinar, so here's what I mean when I say your title of your webinar, in order to hook them, should have more to do with a results-based headline and not a here's what you'll learn, right? 5 keys to growing any healthcare business is more of a here's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn some keys to growing a healthcare business. A tangible result headline would be something like, all right, here's some results I got from Mario or Marius, whatever you said his name was, and turning that into a headline. Taking your headline and saying, I put an example here for you. All right. The title of your webinar could say, for personal trainers, gym owners, and healthcare providers, here's how to get 236 new clients in the next 3 months, right? That was Mario's results, right? So if you can get people on your webinar and you can say, listen, I'm going to show you how to get 236 new clients in the next 3 months, or I'm going to show you a case study of how I helped one of my clients do it. This headline here would tell these people, because again, maybe I'm wrong on this, Ken. If I am, then keep doing what you're doing. But I don't know that healthcare business speaks to in the first 2 minutes of your webinar, people need to show up to your webinar and say, okay, this is for me clearly, right? Because what they're looking for is a way to dismiss. They're not looking for a reason why they should attend. They're looking for a reason why they should close your webinar and say, this isn't for me. I need to save my time. My time is valuable. Hold on. I'm scanning for what reason could I have why this isn't for me, so I can close this down and give myself an excuse to not waste my time on this webinar. That's what people are really looking for. So when you say healthcare business, if they say, hold on, am I in healthcare? I don't know if that's really my business. Hold on, is he talking to people who like sell Medicare or something, or like insurance program? I don't know if this is for me. Hold on, he built a $100 million business. Well, I'm just a personal trainer. I don't need to make $100 million. I don't know if this is really for me. He's a pharmacist. Hold on, how does that relate to me and what I just don't know, right? Does everything you have on this slide directly contribute to their desire and their belief that they can do it? If not, it needs to be removed or changed, period. So a headline like this, for personal trainers, gym owners, and healthcare providers, immediately they're going, oh, yeah, that's me. I'm a gym owner. I'm a personal trainer, or whatever. I mean, I'm just giving you an example here. You can change this up however you see fit. And now it's results-based. How to get 236 new clients in the next 3 months. And in the first minute of your webinar, you say, now guys, I appreciate you being here. I know that may seem like a crazy claim, but this is going to be kind of a case study style webinar. I'm going to show you exactly how one of my clients used one of our services, and we were able to help him get 236 new, or whatever. I don't know what the number is, 236 new bookings or whatever your number was in the next 3 months, some amazing number, and position the webinar not as I'm going to teach you these 5 ethereal keys to growing your business. Instead, position it as, I'm going to show you a step-by-step case study of how I helped one person who's in a business just like yours get results. And by the end of this webinar, if you're in that same type of business, you're going to know step-by-step exactly how to do it for your type of business as well, right? Exactly. That to me would hook them way more powerfully in the first few seconds of your webinar than what you're doing right now, okay? What's another way to build their desire? I would incorporate more success stories of other people who've gotten results with your program, okay? And don't just tell a quick result. I mean, dig in, tell a full, spend 1.5 to 2 minutes and say, not only Mario's story was that he was struggling, he hated trying to do word of mouth referral. What are these people currently frustrated with? Do they hate trying to get new business through referrals or trying to talk to people? How are they trying to get new customers right now that's not working? How can you tap into that pain with Mario's story and then tell Mario's specific results as it relates to what you helped him get? And then maybe later in the webinar, talk about Julie or whoever else got results with your program. Another great way to build desire is to use what I call imagine if statements, right? So you say, listen, I know your time is valuable. And I don't want to waste it. So I want to just ask you, if by the end of this webinar, if I were able to show you how to get at least 5 new bookings within the next 3 days, would you say that your time on this webinar had been well spent? If yes, type a Y in the box or whatever, right? And so engage with people a little bit and get them envisioning a result that they could achieve quickly. Right? Say, listen, if within the next 2 weeks, I want you to imagine if just from what I showed you on this webinar, you were able to get XYZ result within the next 2 weeks, would you say that your time here had been well spent with me? If so, make sure you stick around because I'm going to be showing you step-by-step exactly how I helped Mario do that and how you can do it as well. That's going to get people excited to attend your webinar, not, hey, my name's Ken Lee and let me tell you all about me in the first 5 minutes of the webinar. That is not going to excite people and build their desire, okay? Finally, in your particular instance, Ken, it sounds to me like your service offers a done-for-you solution, and if so, this is incredibly good news for you. Now, I don't know if that's true because I couldn't quite understand everything about what you're offering people, but done for you is like one of the most highly desired things you could sell, right? Like the lowest desire thing is, hey, let me sell you this thing that will give you a manual on let's do this. Let's say that your heater were broke, your furnace in your home was broken. Okay? It's cold, it's the middle of the winter, your furnace is broken, your house is cold. You call up the plumber, the heating and plumbing place, and you say, "Hey, my furnace is broken." Out of these 3 options, what is the most desirable option to you? Option 1, the plumber says, "All right, great. I'll tell you what, I'm going to email you the manual and it'll show you exactly where to go in your furnace to fix this problem and turn all the wrenches and take out the pipes and drain all of the whatever's clogging it up." You'll see step-by-step exactly how to do this in this email that I send you. Make sure you download it and good luck. That's option 1. Number 2 option. The heating and plumbing guy could say, "All right, great. Listen, I'm going to send you the manual. You can look through it. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can call me and I will walk you through it so that you can get some help fixing your furnace. I can't come out there right away, but but I can give you the manual and I'll be there to kind of walk you through it. I'll do it with you." Okay. So option 1 is, here's the manual, do it by yourself. Option 2 is, do it by yourself, but I'll help you. Option 3 is, hey, would you like me to just come out and fix your furnace for you? Which one of those has the highest level of desire? Which one of those would most people prefer? Option 1, 2, or 3? I think we can all agree that the answer is, somebody type it into the box. Yes, ding, ding, ding. It is option number 3. Yes, do it for me. Just do it for me. And so if I'm correct in this, Ken, that you do happen to have a done for you solution, this is great news, because the way that you would build their desire is what you do is you walk them through all of the steps that they would need to do if they wanted to do this on their own without your Health Bank product or your service that you offer for them, right? You lay it out, you step by step, you hold nothing back. Literally, they could walk away from your webinar and do everything themselves if they wanted to, and they would say, oh my God, guy gave me so much value. He was so transparent in what he showed me step by step how to grow my personal training business. This is amazing. And then at the end of the webinar, you say, by the way, if you liked what I shared with you here, you got 2 options. Okay. Option 1, you could take everything I've shown you on this webinar. You could do it on your own. I've given you the blueprint for that. Or for a small monthly fee that will probably pay for itself in the first month that you use it, you can have our company, Health Bank, do all of this for you so that you don't have to mess with any of it. And you can simply focus on doing what you love to do, which is working with your clients, and you can let us take care of all the rest of the stuff that you hate doing, right? Those are the kinds of ways that you can build desire. Now, I mean, those are just a few ideas. There's lots of other ways, but those are probably some of my main ones that came into my mind off the top of my head when I was first looking at how you can improve conversions. So how do you build belief? Okay. One of the things you have to do, Ken, it seems to me, you do this a little. You give them the 5 keys in terms of like general ideas about how to grow their business, but it's very generic. I don't want to say generic. It's very like high-level thinking kinds of things, right? I don't even know if high-level thinking is the right word, but I hope you're understanding what I'm talking about. Like on your webinar, one of them was, what did you say? It was something about what you specialize in or something. Like figure out what you specialize in. So while I'm sure it's a good tip, and I'm not saying you shouldn't include it, what I have found works best on my webinars for really building people's belief that what I'm doing will work for them is helping them to understand the process, okay? One of the reasons my webinar has converted so well and has been working so well for me is because I don't just get in and give people an idea of how to grow their business and get leads online. I actually go in and I say, look, here's the 3 groups of people you should target. Step 1, target these 3 groups of people. Here are specific examples of how you do it. And they see themselves doing it. I'm giving them tangible, actionable steps that they could implement immediately, or if they can't implement, they could at least envision themselves. Oh, yeah, I see how that could work for my business, right? I'm not giving them any kind of like ethereal stuff. I'm giving them step 1, you've got to target the right people. Here's why. That might be kind of an ethereal thinking kind of thing, but then I say, now let me show you how to target the right people. Here's where you find them. Here's what you say to them. Here's who those 3 groups of people are, right? And then I say, okay, step 2 of the process is that you got to craft the right kind of message, right? All right, step 3, you've got to attract these people and convert them. Here's exactly how you do that. So I give them as much actionable steps. That way they walk away. Here's the secret, Ken. To build belief, they have to walk away saying, I see how I could do that. If you have not given them enough clear, actionable steps that they say, I could do that and I clearly see how that would work, they will not build the belief and you'll have lost the sale, okay? Another tip on building belief is that you teach how the process works without over-teaching it and without overwhelming them. So I don't go into, here's how to build a Facebook ad. Here's everywhere to click inside a Facebook Ads Manager. Here's how much you spend. I save that for these inner circle calls, that where I really dive into the nuts and bolts. But I give them enough that they understand the process, they understand how it works without getting overwhelmed in the initial sales webinar. And then finally, this is a huge one. Teach. Don't just teach for the purpose of showing them the process. Teach for the purpose of overcoming their objections and their questions. And here's what I mean by that. I get a lot of people that attend my webinar, and before I create my presentation, I ask myself, what are the reasons they will not buy? What are the reasons they're going to tell themselves, I can't do this? This won't work for me. Well, one of them is, this won't work for me because I'm no good at technology. Okay, so I have to make sure I have to teach my content in a way that it shows the technology is accessible to them, not just to show the process of how it works. Does that make sense? So I'm teaching in a way where I'm helping them not only see how my process gets people into Messenger without having 1,000 moving parts, but I'm doing it in a way where they go, oh, I see how I could do that, even though I'm not good at computers. That makes sense to me. And now they can't say anymore, I'm no good at technology, because I taught in a way that overcame that objection. If my audience also comes in with the objection of, yeah, but you don't understand my specific type of business. So when I'm teaching about target audience, I say, all right, step one, target the right people. Now you might be wondering, how do I know if this method will really work for my business? Well, here's how you do it. You ask yourself 5 simple questions, and here they are. Question number 1, do your prospects struggle with a problem? Question 2, I forget what all those questions were, but do your prospects ever ask questions online before they make a buying decision? Question number 3, do you have any stories of testimonials that you could share with your prospects to help them share stories of success that would inspire potential new customers? Do you have stories of something really bad that happened because someone didn't have your product? Yes or no? Do you have a passion product? I basically get them to answer yes to any one of those. And I say, if you can answer yes to any one of those questions, then this will work for you. And I know because I've worked with, and I start naming off all of the groups of people I've worked with. I say, I've got people who are karate school owners, self-defense class teachers. I've got people who are in real estate. I've got people who are network marketers, affiliate marketers, coaches, authors. I've got brick and mortar business owners, people who build cabinets. I've got financial planners, and you name it, I've got them in my program. And I've found very few people that this will not work for. So yes, this will work for your business. So I do that in a way where I get them to answer yes. Oh, yes, that's true for my business. So I believe now that this will work for me. Does that make sense? I'm not teaching just to show them the process. I'm teaching in a way that says, will this overcome their objections, answer their questions, and build the belief required for them to say, I will make a buying decision today. Okay? All right. So finally, the last little bit here I have for you, just to kind of improve your conversion, is change your offer or improve your offer. So one thing you might consider doing is sending them to an application. I don't know if you're sending them to an order page where you're asking directly for money from them until you get your order form. I mean, one thing you could do is change out the order form. You could use a 2-step order form process. What that means is, so I'll show you what I mean by this. I went to Frank Kern. I saw Frank Kern using this today, okay? Frank Kern has a branding class. He has a new class, but it's like $3,000. So the first step is probably going to scare, if he had $3,000 right on the order form, it would probably scare a lot of people away. So what he's got is a 2-step form. And I think you can create something like that. He's using ClickFunnels, I think. You can create something like this in ClickFunnels where they don't see the price of the product yet, or, they just like they put in, so I could put in John Smith, and I say, so I put in my contact information, and then it takes me to the order form. Well, this 2-step thing, what happens is a lot of people will get to the order form and they're like, I don't know, 3 payments of $997, that's like $3,000. I don't think so. And they close it down. Well, now Frank Kern has their contact information. He could have somebody from his team call them and find out what questions they had. So perhaps you could create a 2-step order form process where you get people's name, number, email address before you get their credit card. And that way if they don't sign up, you can call the people who didn't sign up and find out why. That way you can improve your webinar down the road, or you can, close them over the phone if they just had a few questions that they needed answered in person. That's an option for you as well. Another thing is you could just go away from an order form on page and just send them to an application, and then have your phone team call them and close them over the phone. Because if memory serves me, Ken, it seems like you were doing phone closing prior to doing webinars. And maybe that's where you're expecting to get 10% closing rate. But like closing one-on-one over a phone is, I mean, probably you already know this, but just to state the obvious, when you talk to somebody one-on-one and you can answer their specific questions and deal with them in a one-on-one manner, you're going to get a much higher closing rate than you ever will on an automated webinar that is one-to-many, right? So just make sure you have that expectation. And, if you guys are really good at closing people over the phone, maybe don't send them to an order page. Send them from the webinar just to an application, and then get your team to close them over the phone until you have an order form that converts. Try to find fast start bonuses to give to anybody who would sign up before the end of the webinar. So you do have bonuses, which are good, but one way to really increase the number of people that sign up is, listen, this offer is only good for the next 3 days. Okay. So you were really weak in your urgency. Like it was like, this offer won't be available for long. I don't remember exactly what you said, Ken, but I remember thinking, like, if you gave a hard deadline, like, listen, I'm only making this offer available for the next 3 days. Make sure that you take action. Your timer starts right now. So give them a much more compelling reason to take action now. And then if you add the fast start bonuses, that's what I do. I say, listen, if you need to wait a few days and talk this over with your spouse, I understand. That's fine. But listen, if you're ready to sign up right now, I'm going to give you bonus 1, 2, and 3. But this is the minute I sign off of this webinar, these 3 bonuses are gone. And that really boosts my conversions as well. So those are 3 other things. And finally, this should all be stuff that it's not really about conversions, but it's more about, how do I make the numbers work for my advertising? Because you said, if I can't get XYZ percentage of closing, then it doesn't make sense for me to run paid ads to my webinar. So what are the ways that you can make the numbers work for your advertising? Well, go back and listen to everything I showed you about my back-end process and everything that we're doing in our business to take, even though we only make maybe 6% profit on our front-end sales, to really monetize our leads and sales on the back end. And that's how we make our numbers work in our advertising. So add an upsell, right? Instead of just selling them the initial thing, could you give them some extra, like one-on-one coaching thing or whatever? What other upsell would go with your health bank thing that they would also want to buy? Okay. Hold more webinars and make more offers down the road. So what are you doing with the leads who came in but didn't buy immediately, didn't even attend the webinar? Are you emailing your list on a regular basis, providing value to them, sending them to new content or anything that would build the relationship with them to make them remember you and go, wow, this guy's like really genuinely helpful? Guys, one of the reasons why my webinars do well is because people are primed and ready to buy before they get to the webinar. What you do in your personal brand matters. And here's what I mean by the word brand. A lot of people think about the word brand in a way like, brand awareness. Coke spends millions of dollars on Super Bowl ads to have people recognize their logo. That's branding. No, that's not what I think branding is. For me, branding is, what do people think or perceive about me and my brand or my company before I ever even show them my product and make them an offer, right? If I have positioned myself as an expert, as a helpful consultant, as an authority in my marketplace, I now have positioning that I have a branding position that when they attend my webinar, my offer alone is good, but that alone would have had a lower conversion than if I didn't have the good perception of me prior to them getting to my webinar. So when you can follow up with these people, when you can maybe, I showed you on one of our previous calls, Ken, how to make indoctrination videos that before they get to the webinar, you've already given them some value. They're primed and ready to buy. That's another way to increase the conversions. But then to make the numbers work, the people who didn't buy, how could you hold another webinar down the road? My November, in all of my leads, when they first come into my to my funnel, they see this landing page for this webinar. So they see, discover the simple 3-step formula that top earners use to attract high quality leads online. Okay. That's the main webinar that they all see when they first come in. But then the people who didn't buy in month 1, I might send them to, it looks the same, but the offer is different. The angle is different. Hey, I send out an email in month 2 that says, hey, I've got a student who got 397 leads in like 30 days. And that's Ray. Ray's probably on here right now still. I got a student who got 397 high quality leads for her business. We're going to do a case study. I'm going to show you step by step exactly how she did it. So the first webinar was more of a let me show you step by step how to do this. The next webinar was like a testimonial positioned as a case study, and it was a whole new angle that spoke to people in a different way. So I got new people in month 2 to attend that webinar where maybe webinar number 1 didn't speak to them. Does that make sense? So what other angles, instead of placing all your hopes and dreams on one webinar, just do one webinar for now, get it working. But once you know how to create a really good webinar and have an offer that works, take that offer and re-record a new webinar with the exact same offer, but a different training angle, a different hook to get people in. My hook for the first one was 3 steps to get leads for your business. My hook for the next one was, let me show you how one of my students got 397 leads in less than 30 days without having to have a website or a capture page. They're like, oh, I'm curious. How does this work? Right? New angle, appealed to a new segment of my lead list that maybe wouldn't have attended the first one. Okay. Another thing you do is raise your prices. I used to sell a $297 product on my webinars. I now sell a $497 product on my webinars. I see very little difference in conversions, and I'm now able to make the math work. Okay. So that's another thing. So I told you, instead of send them to an application. We already talked about that. And finally, the last 2. How can you get more registrants to show up and actually attend the webinar? So if you're getting a lot of registrants, but they're not attending, I already gave you suggestions. I believe it was on December 20th. So Ken, go back and listen. I know you have access to December 20th. For anybody else who was a member on December 20th, go back and listen to what I told Ken in December about how to get more of his registrants to show up. I get about 46% of the people who register to actually show up to my webinar. So let's say that you have a 15% show up rate. If you can do just a few and you're getting a 3% conversion on your webinar, right? Well, you don't even have to increase your webinar conversion. If you just get double the people to show up, you're going to make double the sales, right? So each little part, each little cog in this machine that you can improve is going to exponentially grow your conversions. Because if I can get, double the people to my landing page, if I can get double the people to register, if I had 15% people registering, and I can now get my registration page to convert at 30% of the people now register for the webinar, great. I've just doubled the number of people that are going to get to my webinar without changing anything else. And then if I focus on changing, all right, I'm only getting 15% of people to show up. What if I could double that to 30% of people that show up? Well, now I've gotten double again. So I've just quadrupled my business by getting double the people to opt in and then double again those people to actually show up. And now what if I can double from 3%? What if I could double up to 5 or 6% on my closing rate? That's how you can make these numbers work for you. And then finally, Ken, really think long and hard about what is a customer worth to you, not a sale. Do the math. Figure out what the lifetime value of your customers are, not what your front-end revenue is worth to you. Because if these people are going to be customers with you for months and months at a time, and you have other things you could potentially sell them, what is that worth to your business? Because that's really where, and are you willing to maybe break even, make very little money, or maybe even lose a little bit of money on your front end sales in order to acquire that customer that you know will be worth more to you over the life of his or her time with your company? Those are the real questions you have to ask yourself. I hope I've given you a lot of food for thought on how to increase your conversions on your webinar. I think I have. So go back to the drawing board, change up a bunch of this stuff, and look forward to seeing what you come up with. All right. So guys, that's it. I will stick around. We'll answer questions here and finish up. So again, I'm going to take, let's bring my face up on the screen. I think it's going to have problems because my webcam is getting all jittery. I think we got a RAM issue or something, but all right, let's look through a few of these questions. Let's see what we can do to answer some of them before we log off. Verna, your question is so vague. I don't understand. I don't know what you mean. What do I suggest in setting up Facebook Messenger? Can you be more specific? What do I suggest in where to find my training on how to do it? What do I suggest? I don't know how to answer that. It's a little too broad. Okay. Boyd says, would you talk about your webinar on your page? If there was a live webinar every Monday and Thursday evenings, people can also watch it through a replay. Do you think that would be spammy if you talked about the webinar 2 days a week? So first of all, no, I don't think it is spammy. In fact, if you go look at a lot of my Facebook Lives, when I was doing Facebook Lives every day, every Facebook Live, I would do them every day of the week, or at least like 5 days a week. And every time I would say, hey, by the way, I've got this webinar coming up. Because guys, you think about your business like this. You think, oh, I'm creating this piece of content and I'm so attached to it and I'm so familiar with it that I can't talk about the same thing again, or because everybody's going to see that I talked about my webinar today. Guys, people's lives are busy. They're not all tuning in to you and your business and what you've got going on, right? What are they doing? They're living their lives. And so somebody who, yeah, you might have your super fans who watch you every day, and that's okay. If they hear you say, I mean, I do this every day. I would say, I would do a topic. I would do a Facebook Live, 5 to 10 minutes. And throughout that Facebook Live, if you want to see how I do this, Boyd, go to my page, just search for Tyson's Honor. I think it's facebook.com/Tyson's Honor page. Go find my page and look for some of my old, I haven't been doing a lot of Facebook Lives because I've been focusing more on paid advertising with written posts, but go look at like my Facebook Lives and you'll see that when I was doing them consistently day in and day out, I would get, I mean, I would say, hey, attend this webinar. And I would talk about the webinar on every single Facebook Live. Now, having said that, Boyd, I would be careful. If people know that the webinar is available every Monday and every Thursday, there's not a lot of urgency for them to sign up, which is why I say on my, and also for me, I tell people for the first webinar they attend, I tell them there will not be a replay. And I hold to that. I don't give them a recorded replay. I give them an encore that they have to re-register for, right? So I tell people, first of all, in my messages, I don't say, hey, we have webinars every week. Sign up whenever you want, because there's no urgency in that. Instead, I say, hey, listen, I've got an upcoming webinar. Make sure you register. I don't know how long I'm going to leave this webinar available for you to register. And I'll say, because people have kind of a right now mentality. I have a I have where my people can attend my webinar like today. If they want this information now, I want to give them that opportunity to consume it and attend today instead of waiting until Monday or Thursday. So I set all of this up with EverWebinar. This is just how I do it. And I say, hey guys, I've got a webinar coming up today. If you'd like to register for that upcoming webinar, and that's all true. I don't say it's a live webinar. I don't try and pretend it's live. I just say it's an upcoming webinar. We have one available today. All of that is a true statement. And I say, listen, make sure you attend because there's a bonus when you attend. And we will not offer a replay. So make sure that you show up to the live webinar. And then if they miss the live webinar, I send them an email that says, hey, I noticed you missed it. I told you there wouldn't be a replay, and I've got to hold to that. I cannot send you a recording, but what we've decided to do is to offer an encore presentation. We've got an encore coming up today and tomorrow. You can register for whatever time works for you. Head over to the encore registration page right now and pick a time for your second chance to attend. Okay, that's how I handle it, and it creates a lot more urgency. That's the way I do my webinars. Okay, I hope that answered that specific question. Verna said, where is your Facebook Messenger training? Verna, did you purchase my 100 Leads in 30 Days course? If so, that whole course is about how to get people reaching out to you inside of Facebook Messenger and how to utilize ManyChat as a bot product, an automation bot to automate some of your messages if you want to use that as well. So I would ask you, Verna, Attract 100 Leads in 30 Days. Is that the program you bought? Yes. If so, have you been through the whole program? If not, go focus on that. Actually, what I would do, Verna, when you purchased Attract 100 Leads in 30 Days, let me share my screen real quick. I'll show you guys this real quick. Hold on. Right here, inside of the members website, inside of the group, go to the Facebook group, Verna. I assume you're in here. And click on Files on the left-hand sidebar. If you're on a mobile device, you might have to scroll some sort of menu bar. Click on Files. And then, first of all, if you have any questions, most of the most frequently asked questions are right here inside of this thing here. So if it's like, hey, my ad isn't converting, what do I do? My ad got disapproved, what do I do? How do I follow up? How do I narrow my target? All of that stuff. Like most of our frequently asked questions are answered in these documents. The one you should look at if you haven't looked at it yet, Verna, is what order should I consume the training? Click this and it walks you through basically the course itinerary. The entire Attract 100 Leads in 30 Days course that you purchased is the Messenger training. That is, it shows you how to get how to run ads to get people into your Messenger, shows you how to set up ManyChat as an automation bot to automate your messages. I mean, all of that stuff is covered inside of that course. So that would be my recommendation would be go check out the course itinerary and then just follow that in order to consume the product that you purchased, and it should walk you step by step through what you need to do. Okay? Ray said, would you recommend a webinar to build an audience or wait until after you've built an audience? I think a webinar is a perfect way to build an audience. It's the way I've built almost my entire email list and my messenger list. It's all been through webinars. I don't have a separate lead magnet. In other words, my webinar is my lead magnet. It is, hey, do you want to learn how to get XYZ result in your business? I've got a free web class coming up. Put in your name and your email address, pick a time to attend. That's my lead magnet. I think it's an excellent way to build your audience and build your list. So I highly recommend it. But if you're not ready to do webinars, that's fine. You can use some smaller lead magnets, start building an audience with small steps, the way that I show you how to in the product, and build a webinar or hold webinars or hangouts later on down the line. Frederick says, Tyson, any tip for marketing to business people who need to finance their large solar energy projects? I sell $50,000 training programs, and I aim to get 20 people enrolled. Would 1% lead to close be reasonable? 2,000 leads from filling out inquiry forms. How many clicks should I aim for to get 2,000 people to fill out my inquiry form? So, Frederick, those are questions that I don't know the answer to in terms of the exact metrics because I'm not in that market. Every market is different, right? Like I think an example I might have given on an old webinar was like, let's say that you're a lawyer who has a class action lawsuit and you're targeting anybody who used the drug mesothelioma or whatever, right? And so you're only targeting those people. It's a very small group of people, right? So you've got this big group, this big pool of people in that particular market. It may not be a big, huge pool of people, but every person that you get to sign up for that class action lawsuit might be worth tens of thousands of dollars for your firm, right? So how many clicks do you need? And what's a click worth to you? To me, my metrics are not so much about what should my conversion rate be from click to lead? What should my conversion be from lead to sale? For me, it's about what is a lead worth to me? And how do I factor what I'm willing to pay for a lead based on what I know that lead will be worth to me, right? So if and some of that is you're just not going to know. The good news for you, Frederick, is that when you sell a product of this at this high of a ticket price, usually if you're good at sales, usually you have a lot of wiggle room. You can spend more to acquire. I found this in my photography business, okay? In my photography business, when I was targeting wedding brides who wanted to hire a wedding photographer for $3,000 to $5,000, right? I could spend a little bit more to reach those people. And it didn't matter to me if I had a low click-through rate because each lead was worth more to me in this business I'm in right now. Each lead, my conversion rates are only 5-6%. It's not a local business. People don't trust me as much. It's a totally different market. So I've got, much lower conversion rates. So I'm selling a $500 product instead of a $4,000 wedding package, so on and so on and so forth, right? And so I have to take all of that into consideration and say, not what should my click to lead ratio be? What should my lead to sale ratio be? It should simply be, what am I willing to pay? All right, my profit on a $4,000 wedding package, after I pay maybe $500 for products, costs and stuff, I might walk away with $3,500, right? What am I willing to spend to get that customer, right? All right, I got a $3,500 wiggle room of profit to work with. Would I be willing to spend maybe $500 to acquire that customer? No, maybe. I still put $3,000 in my pocket. So for me, I say, okay, I'm willing to spend $500 to acquire a customer. How many leads do I need to get that customer? Well, that's going to depend on how good of a salesperson I am, what my closing process is. That's different for your business than it is for mine. So that metric is different. See how I can't give you the exact, what should my click through? Is 1% good? Is 1% bad? It all depends. If I get 5 brides into my studio for a one-on-one consultation and I can close 1 out of every 5 brides, actually my closing rate was usually pretty good. It was better than that. I could usually close at least 2 or 3 brides out of every 5 that I would meet with. But even 1 out of 5, I say, okay, I could spend $100 per lead because I'm willing to spend $500 to get that wedding client. All right, I know I'm pretty good at closing brides when I meet with them in a one-on-one consultation, one-on-one. I can usually close at least 1 out of every 5, so I could spend $100 for every lead, every bride lead that is going to set up a consultation with me. Do you see how I work backwards from what I'm willing to spend? You have to do that same thing in your business. I hope that answer was helpful and you didn't think I was trying to skirt the issue. It's just there's no way I can answer that directly.